everyone. Welcome in. Today we're going to be talking about one of the databases you have access to as a state employee, and that is JSTOR. Hopefully this session will give you the tools you need to get the most out of what it offers. I'm Royal. I'm the new reference librarian here at KDLA, and this webinar is being recorded and slides will be available for you later. Oops, wrong way. Let's go. So in this training session, I'm going to go over how you can access JSTOR with your KDLA library account, how to set up and utilize your personal JSTOR account and workspace, the resources that are going to be available to you through JSTOR, and then we're going to go over some search tips and tricks. So to access JSTOR, you are going to log in with your state library account on kdla.ky.gov. You will click on State Employees in the top navigation menu, and you will get a page that looks like this one. If you don't yet have a library account, no worries. You can apply for that on this page as well. And then if you do already have a library account, you can click on Research Databases on the left navigation menu, and you will get a page that looks like this. If you've clicked on Research Databases, you will come to this page. You're going to click on JSTOR, and you will get a prompt to sign in with your state library account. And for me, once you've signed in with your library account, JSTOR tends to keep you signed in. So for me, and in my experience, I can usually just navigate straight to jstor.org and I will remain signed in. JSTOR uses a lot of cookies, so that's part of it. Here is something I would like to give you a note about, which is you will know if you are logged in through KDLA if the banner at the top of JSTOR reads Access Provided by Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives. If you don't see this banner, you're not logged in. You will have to log in through the state website. You'll have to log in through kdla.ky.gov. So if you've used JSTOR before in another setting like college, JSTOR will prompt you at the top of the page to log in through your institution. We can't use that link to log in. We actually had a reference request about this pretty recently where someone couldn't access the database because they couldn't use the login through your institution link. Just go back to kdla.ky.gov and log in that way. And our access through KDLA gives you unlimited online reading and downloads for the content on JSTOR that KDLA has access to. I definitely recommend, and JSTOR also recommends, creating a personal account in JSTOR. If you create an account, you can look back and see what you viewed recently. You can save research to a thing called the workspace. That account is yours. It's not linked to your access. So for example, if you started taking part-time graduate classes and you had JSTOR access through your college, the materials you would be able to see might be different, but your personal JSTOR account would be the same. Your workspace would be the same. You can still log into your personal JSTOR account, save your research in folders. If you were to say leave state employment, but you still had the same academic interests, or if you had academic interests in other fields, you would still have your personal JSTOR account. You would still have your workspace. What you're able to access might change depending on where your access comes from. Even if you didn't go back to school, if you left state employment, you could log into JSTOR through your personal account and you would have 100 free downloads of whatever they made available to you. So your account's free, you're still able to use your workspace, and you're still able to save items. Okay. Oops. So There are a few options here within JSTOR Workspace, and I'm going to show you screenshots of my personal workspace, because if you've just made a JSTOR account, you wouldn't have anything in here. There's an option to create a folder at the top. That's an easy way to organize your research, especially if you have more than one research area that you're working on, or if you are working on one project and you want all of that in one folder. I've got my little library science folder in my workspace from when I was doing my master's degree. Any unsorted items that are not contained in a folder are going to show in a list at the bottom. And if you do want to move those items into a folder, it's really easy to do. There's going to be a little move button next to the item, and we're going to go into that next. Sorry, I'm trying to make this window larger so we can see more, but it's not cooperating with me. All right, so I want to give you all a really quick look at what an unsorted items list looks like. So it'll look the same if they're in a folder or if they're unsorted. So as you can see here, you can add a note to something that you have saved. You can move the item to a folder. If you're looking at items you've already saved in a folder, the move button will prompt you to create a subfolder within that folder. And then if you're looking at unsorted items, the move button will list the folders that you already have created, as well as having an option to create a new folder. Your access through KDLA gives you unlimited downloads for items that we have access to. I personally have been using JSTOR for many years across several different institutions, so items in my workspace will reflect that, and sometimes my option to download will be grayed out. If you only have ever had access to JSTOR through KDLA, that shouldn't be an issue. But if you do find an article elsewhere, or if you have a situation like mine where you saved something a long time ago, you want to get it, can't find it, go back to our KDLA site and look through our catalog. And sometimes we can find that for you through interlibrary loan. Articles are sometimes very easy for us to find, and please feel free to submit a request for that. We are happy to help you. We want you to find what you're looking for and help you, so don't be shy. Oops. Okay, I personally have definitely had times where I've found something and then I've had a hard time finding it again. Or I found something and I forgot what search string I used to find it. However, in Workspace, you've got a tab for recently viewed items, and you can see the articles that you've clicked on in the last 90 days when you have been logged in. So if you looked at something and forgot to save it to a folder, it should be in your recently viewed items. Sometimes you may have read something and you were like, boy, I don't want to read anything else by that person. You can check back and see what you've read recently. You do have to be logged in for this to work though, so another good reason for you to get a Workspace account. All right. I'm going to talk here about basic search and how to use the sidebar to filter your results. What's great about JSTOR is you will never be hunting for the search bar. The search bar is at the top of every page. There is always a search bar. For this example, I have searched Kentucky folklore. We've got a little under 6,000 results. JSTOR automatically will show you results based on relevance. That's going to be that top green arrow. You can click that drop-down menu, and it will give you options to search by oldest date and newest date. Sometimes that's useful when you have a very specific search and you have fewer results, but for a search like this where we have many results, it's more likely to return results that will only have one of these keywords. And then if you look here on the left sidebar, we can filter our results. If we're only looking for journal articles, we can click that box. Here's what the rest of this sidebar looks like. If you're only looking for articles within a certain date range, you can input that and apply it to the search results. Oftentimes, I'm only looking for results in a few subjects, and so the subject checklist is really invaluable. Not only are you able to see what subjects include your search terms, but if you look at this pink arrow here, it will show you how many results fall under that subject. That's a really useful tool for your research. It can alert you to subjects that may have a lot of results that you wouldn't have immediately considered. So for me, when I was looking at this, I was like, Kentucky folklore. This will be in folklore and possibly anthropology. I didn't consider that there would be over 1,000 results in American studies. And then on the other hand, if you've created a search string and you weren't getting as many results in that subject field, it might help you rethink on how you can recalibrate your search terms so that you can get more results. And then at the very bottom, filtering only by languages you can read will save you some time and sometimes some heartache, because sometimes the abstract or the title of an article will be in English, but the actual article itself will not be in English. If English is your first language, whatever languages you read. This is a topic where most of our results will be in English, but in other topics that may not be the case. And if you are not interested in doing research outside of languages you're already fluent in, this should save you a little time. So we are still in our search for Kentucky folklore. I've used the sidebar to refine these results by the subject of folklore and results that are in English. You can see those refinements at the top of the page if you look at this green arrow, and it has a handy little X there in case you feel like one of those refinements didn't work for you. This reduced our results down to 144. Hopefully that's easier to browse, give us results that are a little more relevant to our research goals. It's not perfect, and sometimes no search string is going to be perfect, but it will save you time from combing through 5,000 results. Also in the sidebar, you have a little search within results box. That's that pink arrow there. So you can use that to further filter. Sometimes it'll help you narrow results down, and sometimes it will help you rethink how you're searching, what search terms you'll be using. So let's say you took all these steps and you're still getting search results that are folklore, but they're from other countries, not from Kentucky. Might be something to save for later. You can put it in your workspace, but it's not relevant for your project now. If your search terms are better used as a phrase, you should enclose that in quotation marks for the best results. So any search terms you're going to put in JSTOR in the search box are going to be a keyword search. If we just search solar energy without quotations, we'll return results that include the word solar and include the words energy. They may not include one or the other. They may not be together. So for exact phrases, quotations enclosing your terms are going to be the best bet. If you have more complicated search terms than a simple phrase or one keyword, we're going to come back to that in just a second when we go through advanced search. All right. A lot of times when I think about what JSTOR has, I primarily think of it as a place to find journal articles. And I think a lot of other people do as well. But JSTOR has a lot of resources beyond journal articles. They've got a lot of primary source collections, which include newspapers and periodicals. There are chapters in academic books, research reports, there's art, both historic and artistic photography, and also items like maps and diaries. JSTOR has many primary sources available, including some newspapers, periodicals, letters, even diaries like the example you see here. The metadata for primary sources will not be as robust as that for something like a journal article. So when you search for something like a journal, something that's in a journal, it will search through the metadata for the whole text entry, but this is not always the case, especially for things like this that are handwritten or for images. So look over the abstract and the details in the sidebar. When you pull up primary sources, they can link you to other items of interest in the same vein. The collection the item is part of will also be linked, and you can click on that and see what else is in that collection. Today, when I was looking for examples, one of them was letters from a governor's wife, and so it was all of her personal and professional correspondence, and that was contained within the governor's letters collection. And then if you see something like this where you want to read a diary of a lady from 1942 and you're like, that sounds fun, I might want to come back to that later. When in doubt, you can just save it to your workspace. Come back to it. You can put a little note on it. JSTOR will also have chapters of scholarly books. You can filter for book chapters in the sidebar of your search results. This is a book chapter that came up when I searched quotation fish hatcheries. I would like to call your attention in this to the sidebar because it's going to be similar for articles and for primary sources, and it's also a valuable tool when you are researching something. So in the case of a book chapter, we're going to see what pages your search matches come up on. If you look right there, it's going to say search matches 3. And if we expand that out, it will give us the pages that our search matches come up on. It will give you the table of contents. And when that menu is expanded, there will be links to the other chapters that are available on JSTOR. And then also here you'll see that's already expanded is related text. If we were looking at this page for a journal article, you would get in the sidebar the abstract, which is helpful, information about the journal, including a link to the main page of the journal itself. And then you would also get related articles, much like the one here, and the bibliography of the article. So that's useful if you find an article that's a really good lead into your research. You can look at the abstract, you can look at the bibliography, and it will give you keywords, it will give you additional resources, and then you can continue searching from there. Also, you can click into the additional book chapters if you're looking at book chapters, and you can click into the journal page itself, and you can search within those items. Every journal page is going to have a search box that says search inside this journal, and if you find one article, it could stand to reason that that journal has a theme for that month. Search and see if you can find something else. JSTOR also has research reports. These come from a variety of research organizations. My caveat for this is that they are not as easily browsable as other materials on JSTOR. So this is a very brief example. I searched Aotearoa, which is the Maori word for New Zealand, in JSTOR and filtered it by research reports. The report will have the author's name and the research organization as a link, and you can click on the link and see what other reports the institution has published, but they are sorted alphabetically, not by date, and there's no other way to sort them all from that page. Research reports will vary depending on your area of interest, your subject area of research. So it may be worth going down this rabbit hole and it may not, but I just wanted you to be aware that it's a little different browsing experience from other resources available on JSTOR. ArtStore is part of JSTOR. It's basically a museum within JSTOR. There's going to be a lot of open access content. But even if the content is not open access, it will be cleared for your use in education, such as a webinar, or for your research. I would like to also put a little caveat here, which is I've personally had some issues browsing on ArtStore. I've had better success when I search rather than browse. Because sometimes when you're browsing, it will look like there's a museum, like the Museum of American Folklife, and they have many items for you to peruse. But then when you click through, there will be 0 items for you to peruse. So you may have better luck searching for things. And once again, use the same search tips that you would use for primary sources. Simple keywords is going to give you your best results. There are 2 ways for you to access these ArtStore collections. They're both pretty easy. JSTOR makes things fairly intuitive, so you hopefully shouldn't be stuck at any time. The first way is to scroll to the bottom of the JSTOR homepage, which is this top image with the larger pink arrow, and you will click on Search ArtStore Collections. Alternately, when you are searching in the regular JSTOR search box, you can search by image and then filter by ArtStore Collections in the sidebar. You might get more image results not filtering by ArtStore, but it is something to ensure that you're getting this kind of open access. All right, I'm going to talk really briefly about browsing, because I think browsing is a really valuable research strategy. And although it might sound like, I'm trying to get this project done, I don't have time to browse, think of it as you looked through the card catalog in the library and you went and got your book, and that was it. Browsing is going to be more like, you know where the subject is on the library shelf, and you're going to look at everything on the shelf. You might have a chance to discover something that you wouldn't have otherwise. So the browse dropdown on the top right is going to allow you to browse by subject. You can browse by title. You can browse by collection, which is for images and primary sources. And then you can also browse just by image. And I'm showing you the browsing by subject page here, so we can talk about moving walls and access within journals. So my example here is environmental science. We're in the journal tab at the top. We have a list of how many journals in JSTOR cover the subject of environmental science. And then on the right, we're going to see the dates of publication. Now, the earliest I've ever seen a journal published in JSTOR is probably around the mid-1800s. And depending on what your research is about, you may not want something that far back. So that's good information to have. And it's also good information due to moving walls. Current journals will often have something called a moving wall, and that is a set amount of time before articles published by that journal can then be republished. Sometimes that is, we're publishing this in our journal and JSTOR can't have it yet, or we are publishing this in our physical journal and you cannot look at it online for X amount of time. So here are my 2 examples. On the left, we've got the Journal of the Association of Environmental and Resource Economists. They've got their journal still being published, but the moving wall is 5 years. So the most recent issue that's available is going to be 2020. At the top, you'll see, you may not be able to see it, but at the top, they have a little link saying that their current issues are on the website and you can read the latest one, which is very nice of them. The example on the right, oceanography, has a moving wall of 0 years. So if they published a new issue of oceanography, you should be able to read it on JSTOR. My previous position was as an academic librarian. I was helping students do research for their capstones, and sometimes they would want an article that was published in the last 5 years, and it would occasionally be difficult to get, and the reason is because of moving walls. So keep that in mind. It's good information to be aware of, that your access may change based on the moving wall of a journal. Okay, we're going to get into some advanced search. I'm going to go really briefly over Boolean operators, and then we'll get into a little more detail with truncation and proximity searches. All right, I think this is fairly intuitive. We have hopefully all done a search engine search, and this is pretty similar to Google. The example JSTOR uses when they talk about Boolean operators is unicorn, so I'm also going to use unicorn. All of these operators are going to help us refine our searches in various ways. So if we want to see a unicorn and a maiden, we're going to put and between that, and we will get results with unicorns and maidens. If we don't mind if we see a unicorn or a Pegasus, kind of like our image here, we can say unicorn or Pegasus. However, if we're tired of seeing unicorns or Pegasus, maidens, but we're over the tapestries, we can say unicorn, not tapestry. That's terrific. Here is a little fun tip that I recently found out about. If you want to use multiple Boolean operators, parentheses will help the search engine determine what's most important. So we're going to stick with our little unicorn example. In the search string here, the word maiden must exist in our search results. We will say and possibly a unicorn or a Pegasus, but that may exist. It's optional. But tapestry will not exist. So if you are looking for something very specific, you definitely need a maiden, definitely not a tapestry, could be a unicorn or a Pegasus. Parentheses is a cool little Boolean operator help for you. All right. There are a couple of wildcard search tips. These might help you. It's a little bit more complicated than our other search strategies, and the rules for this will be in the center column. JSTOR supports two types of wildcards. They will use an asterisk, which is a multiple character wildcard, and the question mark, which is a single character wildcard. The asterisk is helpful when you're looking for something that could be broader in scope, but you're not exactly sure the best way to phrase that. The question mark is helpful when you are uncertain of the way something is spelled, or you want to make sure that you are returning kind of an international result with a British spelling along with American. This has some limitations. We can't use a wildcard as the first letter of a word. We have to have 3 letters preceding the wildcard. So BIRD asterisk will return results. It'll return birding. It will return birds. Allegedly, it will return Birdman. B asterisk RD will not. So make sure you've got 3 letters preceding your wildcard. Your question mark wildcards can't be used at the end of a search term. And I think this is very important. If you're using quotation marks for an exact phrase, you can't use the wildcard within that. So here's an example, multiple character wildcard and refining search results. So let's say I want to look through research reports about libraries. That's the perfect example of a word we can use an asterisk for, because the report can be about a single library. It can be about libraries. It can be about librarians. We're just not sure. So we can use the asterisks to make sure all of those words can be part of the results. But on the first search, I was just getting people's endnotes for their research reports in which they're saying thank you to librarians who helped them, which is great, and we love to see that, but it's not specifically what we're looking for, right? So I've changed the beginning of the search query to signify that the title should include the wildcard search, because that way it's more likely to be relevant. So the additional search functions we can use in JSTOR that we can add to the search title are title, author, or creator. And don't worry if you can't remember every single thing, like the abbreviation for publication name. JSTOR is really user-friendly, and if you're in doubt, you can just start typing in the search field, and you can select from those choices. Okay. Let's talk about proximity search and how that works. Here's an example from a recent reference question I had. I was searching for Clementine literature. As you can see, this is over 2,000 results. Our search terms will be in bold sometimes in the text preview if there is one. And you can see here for the top result, only literature is coming back. And for the next result, we're only getting Clementine. And while I'm definitely interested in a papyrus describing magical powers, it's not really relevant to what we're looking for. So let's do a little proximity search here. I have to say that this is not the perfect example because Clementine literature is a phrase, and so I could have just searched for this in quotation marks, but it's a handy example, so we're going to use it. What I've asked JSTOR here to do is return results where Clementine will appear within 5 words of literature in the text. So this will give us much fewer results, and the idea is that you'll be able to find something relevant faster. Here's something I would like to add, which is I was looking for another reference request to see if there was anything in JSTOR about fish hatcheries in Kentucky, and I tried searching fish hatchery near 5 Kentucky, but fish hatchery is a phrase, and you cannot use a phrase with proximity search. You have to use individual keywords. So I had to use hatchery near 5 Kentucky. This is a really useful tool if you are searching for something and when you're getting your search results back, you're getting keywords within someone's citations, and that's the only result. Sometimes I would be searching for something and the keyword would be the same as an author's name, and I would just get that author's name. So it's very useful for things where you want to make sure that you're getting something within proximity to one another so it's more relevant for your research. Proximity search will work for 5, 10, and 25 word proximity. Just remember you can only use it with single keywords, not with phrases. And also, I've had issues in the past with proximity search glitching. So when you're looking through your results, make sure that those search results don't include a bolded N, because that's the glitch that will occur, is that it will use N5 as part of the search string. It does not often happen, but be aware that sometimes it will. All right, that's about all we've got. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them here. If you want to put them in the chat, go right ahead. And I apologize for the technical difficulties, but we made it anyway. You're so welcome.